Although I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, this podcast is not therapy and should not be used as therapeutic intervention. Many of the products and practices mentioned are for educational and informational purposes only. Should you need support, please seek appropriate, qualified, and licensed professionals. Hey y'all, welcome to Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist, the podcast where we navigate the murky waters between what society expects and what it means to truly live, embrace the messiness, the beautiful chaos of life, and celebrating the rebellion in the process. Whether you're a recent graduate, a seasoned therapist, or someone simply curious, there's something here for everyone. But before we dive in, make sure you join the Hot Mess Rebellion community where you can connect to other like-minded souls. I'm your host, Shauna Lovin, a seasoned therapist and wellness educator with a very rebellious spirit. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's rebellion. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist. So today we are going to continue on with our journey about grad schools. It's like I talked about it last week and then all of a sudden it's like, here's more stuff that I can give. But today I'm going to take a little bit different spin and talk about the things that I kind of regret about grad school and like how I would do that differently today. And so this may be a little triggering for some people. I'm just going to put that out there, but I'm just trying to recall where I was, where I started, and kind of like where I am now and what that looks like for me. So, well, let me put this out there first and foremost. The school that I went to was a private school. And so the very first question is the private school trap? Is it really worth it? And, when you're young and you're in your early 20s when most people start graduate school, I think I was maybe in my mid 20s because I didn't go to school right away. But what do we know about life? We know shit about life. We don't know what it's like to adult. We don't know anything. And we take on these huge responsibilities coming out of college, and we don't know all the ins and outs about it. So the first thing that is really on my list is I would not be doing a private school. One, because it freaking costs too daggone much. Let's just say that. And it's not just about the tuition. It's about like the fees and like, do you get to live at home? And if you don't, then you have to pay for your rent and, like all the things of adulting. And partly of what comes up now is the inflation piece. And, is it really worth the prestige? Is it worth the pressure of being at a quote unquote top tier school or program? And does it really fit your goals and values, or are you just really trying to be there for the name? So at the time when I picked the school that I went to, it really was trying to achieve what I wanted, but then still didn't have all the ins and outs. And I'll go into later of why I would definitely pick a different school. But for the sake of education, yeah, I think a bigger price tag from a private school ain't it. Okay, so continuing on with money, the second biggest regret that I have is freaking student loans. Yes, it's the debt that follows you no matter what. Doesn't matter if you're trying to buy a house, a car, or whatever, rent an apartment. It's just there. And given that I went to a private school, the amount of student loans that I still have now that I've been out of school for a while now are still there. I'm still working on it, still trying to tick the boxes, quite don't qualify for certain loan programs, but I'm still there. The other piece that comes up around student loans is like, were you just going to get your master's versus a PhD? And so what I really wanted to do back in the day was be a psychologist for the police department, and you needed your PhD for that. But somewhere along the line, I'm like, okay, I'll just get my master's degree and then I'll go back to school. Well, here we are, been licensed 12 years, out of school since 2007, and I have not gone back to school yet. But now I don't think I would want to do that. I'm look at something totally different just because of where I am in life. And the worst part is that if you're really considering going back to school, you're really just adding more debt to the pile. You really are. It feels like it's just like some crazy endless cycle of like, we're just throwing money at all these degrees, and that they don't automatically translate that to what we get in our paychecks or what we earn, bringing in the household to be an adult, right? Kind of the other thing that goes with student loans is just regret paying without a purpose. Like, I might end up paying off my student loans at some point, right? But it's like, even though like I may stop using this degree or I've retired or whatever the case may be, I still have to pay that financial burden that is there. And something that if I knew when I was 22, 23, 25, I would have definitely made a very different choice. And this is the reason why I am consciously trying to make things better for my own children, because I know what the repercussions are after the fact, and I don't want them in the same situation that I was in. So number 3 on my list is, again, do we go to school for a master's or a PhD? It's like this tug of war between, do we get more school or do we want more debt? Or do we want both? I don't know. So is more school really the answer? The bigger question is that no one prepares us for what it's really like to go into being into a PhD. Or what it means to be after that. Sometimes it feels like some like crazy race, because the theory is like, if you're a PhD, there's only certain things that you can do versus there's a lot of things that you can't do, and one of the more crazy ones that I believe is like, I love teaching. I love helping others in that space and learning and getting more. But for me to teach at, say, grad school, for me to teach at a college, a university, or even a community college, they want you to have a freaking PhD. But what makes them different than someone who has a master's and then has the experience? In my opinion, nothing. Just the letters. No shade for those out there with your PhDs and PsyDs, more power to you. But I'm just saying. And so think about like, if we just choose just like the master's route, like I did, right? We feel like it's a logical step. We feel like it's something that we can do. But then, like I was telling you before, it's like, if we don't have the PhD, does that really mean we are less credible or we have less career options because we don't have that? The other piece that comes up is with this PhD, if it supposedly opens all these doors, but sometimes the real door opener is the experience, not the letters that we have behind our name. So we have to step aside and look at the bigger picture. Like, is it really the letters that are helping us out, or is it the experience that we had? Another big thing that comes up for me, and this one really sits home for me, like this one really touched me and rocked me to my core, because there's a whole bunch around it. So there was a lack of diversity in the community that I went to school in. Like, there weren't really any teachers or people that even worked at the school that kind of looked like me. Now, I am not talking about DEI stuff, because just because it's DEI does not mean that you deserve to be there. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about situations where you are deserving to be there. You, your own, held yourself, and you got there with your own stuff, not because you were put there. So I'm not talking about that. But once I arrived in the room on my own, there weren't really anybody that looked like me. Just saying. And so there wasn't really diversity among the students. Well, there was more among the students than there were faculty, but it really wasn't there. And when you are unrepresented, by your faculty, there sometimes is a disconnect with learning. There's also the piece where I remember when I was trying to graduate from school and I was working on my thesis, and I was doing kind of like this overview kind of thesis on mental health court at the time in the county that I lived in. And I had everything worked out. I was making freaking edits to the thesis, y'all, so that I can present it, right? Or turn it in. And the director, whoever she was, some lady, came back off of maternity leave and then tells me, like, no, I don't know who the fuck you are. You can't do this thesis. And basically, I had to scrap the entire paper after months. Now, y'all know how long it takes to write a darn thesis. After months, I had to scrap the whole thing because basically she was threatening to not allow me the space to become licensed of any kind or to graduate if I continued on trying to write this thesis, because apparently I didn't get her permission, but she was on maternity leave when all this was going on. And didn't know that maybe that was the person I needed. I don't know, but I did the proper channels, and apparently that wasn't the right channels. So this put me in a place where I couldn't do a new thesis because I didn't really have time. And I had to do an internship, which that was crazy within itself because there's just like there was a lot about the internship. And so it pushed back my graduation. And so what should have been 2 years ended up being 3, 4, 5 years. Like, it was crazy. Or 2.5 years to 5 years, something like that. And it's not that I don't regret the internship or the experience that I gained there, because it was actually a really good internship. Not that I want to work with teens or kids that are in trouble, but the experience was great. And the reason why I connect this to the lack of diversity in your faculty is because there wasn't anyone there to support me. There wasn't anyone to help me like figure out what do I do or how do I change. I had to do all that shit on my own, all of it. And again, that cost more money, right? Because I added a whole 2 years. Now, the blessing that came out of that was I really wasn't on the path to be a licensed counselor. I really wasn't. And I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but that's not where I was. But it allowed me to take a couple extra classes in the process so that I could become licensed and take the exam. So I guess that was the upside of it. But, your universe puts you where you need to be for whatever reason. And so that whole thesis internship thing just wasn't it. It just wasn't it. And it didn't help me really map out like where I was going in life. One of the last things that we talk a lot about around this podcast is there are no business building skills. They don't teach us that. They don't bring it up. It's like you're a therapist, you work for somebody else. You're not a therapist who's a business owner. You're not a CEO. And they really just teach us We don't run a business. We don't have one. And there is zero focus on building a sustainable practice, marketing yourself, or even just managing your own freaking finances around anything, right? It's just not there. And so that also makes me think about there's no practical skills for real world success. So it's like it's writing the case notes, it's diagnosing your client, it's building an actual system with your clients and your practice that works for you. It's just expected that you are just someone in this system. You're a part of the machine, but you don't build your own because you work for someone else. Like I said, the self-employment struggle is real. Like, it's a whole nother skill set that we just don't get. And they leave us totally unprepared. I mean, think about taxes and billing and contracts and the legality of things and all the things that you need to CYA. Like, we don't get any of that in grad school. None of it. So I'm just here to say, like, oh my God, the things that I experienced in school. And I mean, I know I'm not the only one. I know there are some of y'all out there that have experienced similar things, and I would love to hear that. But this is just crazy. It's just crazy on how we are treated in school, or the lack of treatment in school. So now that I've been out of school since 2007, licensed since 2012, a supervisor since 2015, this is what I would technically do differently. And it's taken me a while to get here, but I definitely think this is what I would consider if I had the chance to start over. The first thing would be is picking something that I love and aligning with my passions and purpose. And so I would really think about following my gut, because instead of chasing like the title, the name, the letters, the things that are typically quote unquote safe, but they're really not, that I would follow the things that were for me. Even though sometimes your passions don't pay you, right? It sometimes connects us in some other priceless ways. And that would be the first place that I would start. I would really just let the experience that I was having or had or trying to have really guide me. The life I was having outside of school, have that guide me and give me the clear direction of where I would go. So this is kind of like that gap year you would have when you leave college or whatever, and then you don't go right into grad school. Like, you take a year and you kind of freaking experience life, and then you move on. That would be something that I would do. The second big thing that I would do is freaking find an in-state school or an online PhD program. Choose something smart, not flashy. Like, I would do, and this is what I'm working on with trying to set my kids up well, is that I would avoid anything that was private. It would have to be public, and it would have to be close to the house, if not online. Because in the end, it's just like when I used to tell my attorneys, in the end, the school you went to really doesn't matter. People want to know, can you do the job? Can you help them? That's what they want to know, right? I would also maybe find a program that had things around flexible learning. There are some out there now. Not really sure if they were there then, but people want to know, people that you help just want to know, can you do the job? Like, can you be the therapist, or can you be the person to help them? Doesn't matter where the fuck you went to school. It's, can you help them? The third thing on the list is taking time to experience life. Like I said, this is not a race. This is a marathon. Like, just because we're trying to get through school, and try to make things happen for ourselves, our education is not linear. It is something that has ebbs and flows, ups and downs, right and wrong. Like, it has all the things. And even when we think it's wrong, there's still something positive out of that, or something we can still learn out of that. And so If it's like taking time to travel, taking time to work in different fields, just figuring out like what makes me happy and going after that, because that is what's going to help me have a clear kind of sense of purpose. Okay. So another one would be is, again, finding a program that focuses on practical application. Like, I'm done with the theory, right? Versus modalities, because they didn't really give us that. I would find a school that had the amazing career support, can help guide you and give you some form of mentorship so you know where you're headed and where you're going. There are so many grad students coming out of school and they have the fuckless idea about what the fuck is going on and how they got there or what they're doing. Like, they get nothing. And so if we have programs that are more hands-on, more about understanding the theory, more in the practical application of these theories, running a business, marketing yourself, being independent, using all your skills, it will be so much better. And I really don't know if there really is a school out there like that, but let's leave this prestige shit in the back. Let's find people who are going to mentor us and guide us in a great direction so that real life, real learning is actually happening instead. Okay. Another thing that I would do is make sure that I had a support network actually outside of school and just seeking mentorship and guidance outside of that community. Because if your community in the school is not doing what they're supposed to do, you need to find the people on the outside. And yes, I may have that now, but I think then when I was in my early 20s, I would have done that back then, because I think I would have definitely made different choices if I had the community then. The other piece is create a diverse community on my own terms. I mean, I'd be more intentional about seeking out diverse voices and perspectives. And even if they weren't representative of me and or my school or my thoughts, that's okay. The point is to get views and thoughts and support from other people. Even if they're online, they're local, whatever. But if you are lacking these things in school, this is something that definitely would be added in. So I'm just bringing this forward today and just taking a minute and looking back. Last week's conversation had me thinking about why the hell I hated my school and what I would do differently. I still think about going back to school to get my PhD. But the issue that I'm having is it really going to serve me what I need? Do I really need it right now after all this experience? Do I really want more debt? No, I don't. And so I sit on this until either the right program comes up, something really speaks to me or makes me move in that direction, that soul moving space in that direction. And so I think I've really learned from my experience. And even though I have regrets, I do recognize the mistakes and missteps have also shaped who I am as a person, as a therapist, as a mom, as whatever. It's given me something. They didn't prepare me for everything, but it definitely forced me to create my own path. And if I learn to, things I'm still working on, but if I'm learning to move out of my own way and not let the imposter syndrome or the perfectionism or the people pleasing not get in the fucking way, then my own path is what's really for me. So I'm going to leave you with this. Looking back helps you make more informed decisions moving forward. And if you're thinking about going to grad school, if you're listening to this and you haven't already gone, or if you're thinking about going back to school, or you've already been there, done that, learn from your past. Reflect on your past. What would you do differently? How would you take time to create a path that is better for you and that works for you, your future, or create a better future and doesn't just look good on paper? That is the power of reflection. So I hope y'all found this helpful today. And I didn't bash y'all too much. But hey, these are just my thoughts. So I hope you found this helpful today, and I'll talk to you soon. Until next time. Thanks for joining today's rebellion with me. Remember, it's okay to be a hot mess sometimes. It's all part of the journey. Until next time, stay rebellious, stay authentic, and keep embracing the beautiful messiness of life. Don't forget to join the Hot Mess Rebellion community where you can connect with other like-minded souls. And anything mentioned in today's episode will be linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe, you share with a friend, you leave a review, and you keep coming back for more. This podcast was brought to you by Healing Roots Wellness and Botanicals. For more information, please visit healingrootswab.com.